Hello and welcome to another Monday night stream. Once again, another week has passed us by, and I'm here again streaming Heir to the Empire. You may hear my stomach grumbling a little bit. I hope that doesn't bother anyone. I'm not quite sure why it's complaining today, but there we go. So, as always, I'll give people about 10 minutes before I get started. We're going to be looking at our Grand Admiral. Welcome. I'm sure you've noticed you can see yourself on the screen. I'm the reverse. I feel like you should have some angry helicopter noises as your theme. I hope you're both doing well. Grand Admiral, it's good to see you back, because you haven't been here for a couple of weeks, but it's always good to see you. And of course you're here. So I hope you're doing well. The reverse, I'm the reverse. It's one of those books I never actually got around to reading, which I probably should do at some point. I'm glad to hear it. So I haven't quite finished chapter 15 yet. I've got all the footage, I just need to do the sound editing. I don't want to do the sound editing on stream because there's that concern of when I'm playing around with the music, it may trip up the copyright detecting bots, and that could be a problem. So I'm not going to do that. And of course, music is a big important part of the video, so I can't just do the sound effects without the music for the stream. And also, the as far as the sound effects goes, it's not a lot to add because it is mostly talking. So I'm going to be showing how I create one of the episode thumbnails, which I know I've done it before for one of the previous chapters, but I thought it'd be good to do it again for chapter 15. So I hope to do the sound, get the sound editing done quite quickly, and release it very soon. I don't want to give it a date just yet. I like to release on Thursdays for some reason. That's the day that is the most popular to release episodes. So if I can get it done this Thursday, then it'll be then. Otherwise, I imagine it'll be Thursday next week. I don't believe I've read either. Excuse me. I don't believe I've read either of those books, but I hope you're enjoying them. What happened to the Knights of the Old Republic? Krogan, welcome. Matthew, that's good to hear. There is a playlist on my channel as well. It also includes the opening crawl. So you should add that to your playlist as well. Then you can watch all of it back to back. And then when 15 is released, you can add that too. Hang on, let me catch up with the chat. Let's see. Michael, so as a finalist in the fan film contests, the awards were last night. We did not win Best Animation. We lost to a Star Trek inspired fan film, which I personally find quite hilarious given the the long rivalry between the two franchises. So I'm not too worried that it didn't win. And just being a finalist is a huge thing. I mean, it kind of went a long way with this series. So I'm very happy. And I see what you mean about the Knights of the Old Republic. Okay, I guess they want to get it right, so that if they need extra time, then that's best to give it to them. Of course, October is also my birthday month, so maybe it'll be in time for my birthday. And it's not that far off. Floopy, welcome. And yes, actually I do like Star Trek as well, so I haven't watched the fan film that won yet. I need to do that just to check out the competition. Got a lot of regulars here today, which is nice to hear. Chapter 16 is the halfway point of the book. I'm really excited to work on that because it's got a lot of action in it and some excellent Thrawn scenes. But obviously I've got to finish 15 first, and I do have a lot of the dialogue needed for 16 already. Floopy, I've excuse me. I've finished all the animation for chapter 15. I've just got the sound editing to do, but I don't want to stream that because there's that risk that when I'm experimenting with different music choices, it will trip up the copyright bots and cause some problems. So I'm not ever going to stream the sound editing because music's an important part of making the chapters, and I don't want to get into trouble just by accident. Actually, I'm sure you understand. Besides, sound editing isn't that exciting. Especially when it's things like footsteps. I really hate footstep sound editing because it's so tedious. Just trying to line up taps, and then you have to lower the volume or play around with the volume so that they're not overly loud, but you can still hear them faintly, and making sure they line up perfectly with the character animation. It's not a fun part of editing, but luckily it doesn't. It's kind of tedious, but it can be done quickly once you kind of set your mind to it. Let's see, can I make the episodes longer? I can only work with the length of what's in the chapter, so if there's not a lot in the chapter to work with, that's all that it's going to be. As for the other part of that question, I did think about that, but on the other hand, it's nice just to... It wouldn't make the releases quicker. It would probably mean that there's a longer wait between releases because I then have to work on multiple chapters at once. And I'd kind of prefer to get each chapter out to you guys as soon as possible, which is basically once the Thursday after I finish it. For some reason, Thursdays is the best day to release episodes. I do not know why. But that's the day that seems to work to get the most people watching. And obviously that's an important part of the show. It's no good if no one's watching it. So yeah, when I finish an episode, the following Thursday, whichever it will be, is when I'll release it. So it's been 10 minutes. I think I should get started. I don't know how long this is going to take me. Probably not a lot because there's not really a lot to do. So this is going to be the thumbnail image that I'm going to be using. It's from the chapter 15. I did tinker around with the camera angle just a little bit, so it's not an exact shot from the episode, but it's fairly close. Flippy, yes it is. Now I did change the location of the scene. So in the book it's in Thrawn's meditation chamber. In the book it's in the series it's going to be in the hangar, and you'll see why when you watch it. So I've created a template of, so this is basically the thumbnail for 14, and I'm just going to modify that to reflect the new image. So I'm just going to copy and paste. There we go. So that's simply done. I can save that. And obviously this says 14, so we need to update that. Again, quite simple. Now we've got the text, and then the border around it is two separate layers, but for what I need to do, I'm going to combine them into one. Actually, before I do, I'm going to save what I've got. I believe those two ships are the same ship. This is Paint Shop Pro. I prefer Paint Shop Pro to Photoshop. It's just something that I've always used for as long as I can remember, from one version to another. But I mean, this would be... I have used Photoshop, so it would be an almost identical process. No, this is chapter 15. 16 is the next one, which I've got some of the recordings for, but I haven't animated it. So 15 is the next chapter that I'm going to release. So getting distracted looking at the chat. So I need to resize the layer 150%. I know that's not what I really should do, but I'm going to anyway, because it needs to match that. So that's a layer that's going to appear up here. Right, selection to layer. Okay. Now, what's going to be interesting is using Roman numerals when I get to chapter 30. And I'll let you guys figure that one out. James H, you're not too late. I haven't been streaming for very long. This font is... Let me go back and I'll tell you. It's called Episode 1. It's the same font that was used in the prequel posters, very specifically Episode 1, which is why it's called Episode 1. I'm sure you can find it on the various sites that have Star Wars fonts. I just always liked that, the way that's written and the way it looks. So I use it in all my Star Wars fan films for the titles because I just really like it. Anyway, back to back to this. I hope it doesn't, because it's going to be very awkward. Right, so we've got the correct title. And now it's zoomed in, I can't remember which one's which. Yeah, that is the right one. Just position it very carefully. Berserker, welcome. James A. I saw that, made me very happy. There's a sudden influx of views from somewhere, because when I checked it a couple of days ago it was around 7,000. So it's nice to have a little bit of a boost on the views. So we're going to get rid of these other layers. Yes. Well, if they paid me a lot of money, I would be happy to do that. Of course, if Disney ever do make enough Star Wars films to reach episode 30, they're going to have the exact same problem. Yeah, they are. They do seem to be okay with fan stuff, which is nice because it means this is actually possible. I hope some people at Lucasfilm have been watching and enjoying it. So what I've done now is I should be explaining what I'm doing. Is I've created a duplicate of the blue text and I've reduced the brightness so it's all black and produced several duplicates with the goal of creating sort of a background shadow effect, which means the text visible against the background picture. Oh yes, we watched, I did a surprise stream many months ago and we were all looking forward to seeing more, if any Star Wars games are going to be announced or talked about. And I think we were all waiting to see about Lego Star Wars. Of course, nothing happened. I can't remember which, was it the Game Developers Conference? It was a long time ago now. But anyways, so Gamescom's coming up this week. And they've revealed that the Lego Star Wars game is actually going to get some information revealed about it. So I'm hoping that we'll get a release date, and maybe this time they will stick with it. So what I've done is created a blur on those layers, and I'm going to duplicate it a few times. I can't remember the settings I used before, but this will do. I think that's nice and visible. Let's have a look. It's a shame that Games Workshop's like that, because they should really encourage fans to be creative. I think when IP holders or owners recognise that the fans being creative is a good thing for the franchise, that whatever it is, and sort of encourage that, then it creates a much more of a friendly atmosphere. And luckily Disney have been okay with this sort of thing for so far, and I hope that continues. But when you kind of clamp down on fans being creative, I think it's not a good thing to do. Can you highlight the blue text and make a black stroke with more transparency? Yeah, I can adjust the transparency of these. Basically, I'm overdoing the black, and then I can tone it down gradually. So I think I want to... I'm trying to make it match the others, and I can't remember exactly what I did, which could be an issue. But yeah, I can adjust the transparency. I don't want to do it too much because then it kind of fades. Although, what I can do, let's merge all these together. Princess Gamer, welcome. Nice to see you here. Currently working on some Heir to the Empire stuff. Lord Cranio, thank you for popping by. I don't know if you're still here, but I thought I should just say hello. And I was going to go somewhere, but I can't remember what I was going to say though. Alright, Mount Tantis. It'll be interesting to see where they take that, if it's going to be more of a Bad Batch thing, or if it's going to show up in the live action shows that are coming. Alright, so we want that on full at the moment, but what we can do, I got distracted with the chat, so we're going to use the eraser tool. I think that size is a little bit too much. Let's go with 300. Yep. And opacity, let's take it down to 10. So we can, parts like this, we can reduce the opacity just a little bit, but where it still needs to be darker, we can keep it that way. So how about that? Is that visible? So I think what the story is going to be, it's not going to be an exact copy of the Thrawn trilogy that we know from the books. Thrawn's obviously going to have a campaign he's planned out against the New Republic. And rather than see what he does from the perspective of Han, Luke and Leia, we're going to be seeing it from the perspective of Mando, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and the other show, which I guess isn't happening now. But yeah, we're going to see it from perspectives of different characters, and it could be that Thrawn's campaign is going to run along similar lines as the books, or it may be something very different. Taskmaster, welcome. Using some freeware for mocap with a webcam. I don't do webcam. Do you mean faceware? It would be nice to have the Grisks in the live action, because Timothy Zahn set it up, and then obviously his more recent books are going back further in time before the Grisks. So it'd be nice to see where he's going to go with what was going to be set up with that. I still need to read the second book. I've got it there, and I got the audiobook, but I haven't got round to it, which I probably should do before the third one completes the trilogy. I've just had a lot of other things to do. So I don't need webcam for full mocap, because I have a mocap suit. It's a Perception Neuron V1. Which I use for pretty much all of the character animation in the series. The only time I didn't use it was for chapter 1, because I was just doing it as a little test video, and I didn't really want to go to the trouble of putting the suit on just for that. And I don't do stunt work with it because I don't want to break it. So I guess it's that. But yeah, pretty much every character animation you see in the series is motion capture. It's me in the suit, running around in my living room, or sitting around in the living room if it's one of those cockpit scenes. What did I think of the Squadron's campaign? I haven't finished it. I know I should. I just haven't got round to it. How much did I pay for the suit? I can't remember. I've had it for many years now. I'm hoping. So if you check on my channel, there's that facial animation contest video that I posted the other day. And one of the prizes is the V3 suit. I don't remember how much they are offhand. Those are more expensive than what I remember vaguely paying. So I can't afford it. But I've seen some of the results from it, and it's so smooth and much easier to use. So I'd really, really like to win one of those, because I think it will make the animation in this series a lot better. Which is one of the reasons I entered the contest. And I did say that the contest would help, the prizes would help the series, and that was one of them. I don't know if how much chance I've got of winning, because there have been a lot of entries, but fingers crossed, and hope the Force will be with us, and the Thrawn will be with us. Better save the progress there, because that is done, I think. But I don't want to stop streaming just yet. But it's the Perception Neuron V1, which is the first suit they did. I saved up for quite some time to get it. And then I did. It arrived. And I've used it on a number of video projects over the years. Starting with the Imperials fan film. Some commission videos I've done, and this, and a couple of other things that I've been doing. It definitely made it my work a lot more interesting, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that's a good way. I mean it's fun to put the suit on and act out the scenes. Also, what I really like is having each scene, the characters in it have completely unique animation to it, so I'm not just using stock animations that are available to everyone else that uses iClone. So it's all a completely unique performance for each character. So even if it's just two people standing and talking to each other, I will still mocap that because it makes it special. And what I like to do is wait until I've got all the dialogue for the scene from the voice actors. I will edit together a rough version of that scene with the dialogue that I can then play on my phone and listen to, so I can act out the scene in time with the dialogue. I started doing that with chapter 8, and I feel like I think it's 8, and I think it adds a lot to the videos. Floopy, thank you. I'm glad you think so. Krogan, probably would have gone very differently because the rebels did rely on starfighters quite a lot, so if the Empire had TIE defenders, it's obviously a much superior craft to any of the rebel ships. If they'd been mass produced, I think it would have been disastrous for the rebellion. But unfortunately the Emperor decided to go with Death Stars instead, which both of those were extremely vulnerable to starfighters. So I hope everyone is doing well, had a good weekend. Had a quiet one. Not really sure what else I can say about it. It wasn't necessarily that. It was Governor Price destroying the factory that they were produced in, and Director Krennic pressuring, really pushing the Death Star project. So I think there's a combination of factors that really killed the TIE Defender project. Which is a shame because it was an excellent starfighter. I had a lot of fun. I remember playing TIE Fighter back when I was a kid, and flying the TIE Defender was my favourite ship. So when I resume the playthrough, I can't wait to get to that point in the game and be able to fly the TIE Defender. Yeah, I think once the factory was destroyed and then Thrawn disappeared very quickly afterwards, there wasn't really anyone to champion the TIE Defender project to make sure it got the funding it needed. And yeah. So Anarchy, I use this piece of software called iClone, which is an excellent piece of software for animation. It renders very quickly most of the time. Price is a very good example of why politicians should not get involved with military tactics, because they tend to be idiots. They would have. So what I'm hoping is, obviously Thrawn's going to be in the live action show, so I don't know which one he's going to appear in, because it could be any of them. I mean, obviously he's going to be in Ahsoka, but he may show up in Mando before that. He may show up in the Book of Boba Fett before that. We don't know. There's been a lot of rumours and speculation, and I don't really listen to any of that because it's rumours and speculation. I'd rather just watch it and wait for him to appear. Obviously, the sooner the better, because obviously you're a Thrawn fan, but however he appears, we're going to see him. And Ezra, there's got to be part of that somewhere. So whatever they do, I hope they show what happens after the space whales, like what happened between Thrawn and Ezra, because if they ended up on some distant planet, would they figure out how to be friends and survive together, or would something more sinister have happened? I don't know, but I hope that's a story we get to find out, either as flashbacks in the live action show, or if they do a comic or a book, because I think it's going to be an interesting story to hear about. Well, Captain Pelion wasn't commander of... It wasn't captain of the Chimera. He was captain of... I can't remember which ship he was the captain of. There we go. Yes, Pelion was there. He was name dropped by Thrawn in those last moments of the battle. Which made him canon in the new timeline, and then of course Timothy Zahn picked up on that and expanded Pelion's role in the story with in the books. Hello, welcome. Creative Imagine Studios. I would like to, but so far I'm just focusing on Heir to the Empire, because if I start thinking about how many chapters are in the entire trilogy, I think I may go mad. But I am nearly halfway through the book, which is very exciting. So, Pelion didn't appear in any of the Rebels episodes. It was just Thrawn talking. He was listening. Excuse me. He issued an order addressed to Captain Pelion, but you never got to see him in person. Flippy, that's not helping. So the way I imagine it is, Thrawn will want to work with Ezra, and Ezra will be, I'm not working with you because you're the enemy. And so a lot of the time will be Thrawn trying to convince Ezra that they need to work together to survive, and Ezra will be very stubborn about it. But eventually something will happen, and Ezra will realise that they have to work together. All the details of that, I have no idea, because we haven't seen it, obviously. Well, Yeah, when there's lockdown and I can't go anywhere, that does make it easier to animate. Though the way I do things is before COVID and lockdowns, I would animate a scene and then just leave it rendering when I was away from home, or if I was going to be away from home for several days, I could animate several scenes, and then there's a batch rendering tool, so I can just render several things in a row, just queue them up. So I'd animate them and then just leave them to render while I was away, which is a good way to get things done. How they survived, I guess we'll have to find out. If they jumped... So the space whales can jump into planetary atmospheres. So if that's what happened... I don't know. Hoppy, I'm talking about before lockdown. During lockdown... I would still animate, but then and then render it for night. I haven't actually had a night away from home since before COVID. But yeah. So it's difficult to know if another lockdown would how that would improve speed on Heir to the Empire. It would just give me a chance to write and work on a couple of other things in between chapters as well, because I can only work on it when the voice actors send me the dialogue, and because we are doing this for fun, they have jobs and other things to do, which is all perfectly understandable. So when I'm waiting for them to send me the dialogue, there's only so much I can do on the Heir to the Empire. That's not a complaint, it's just how it works. So in those cases I have been working on other things, and I've got a few other ideas on producing more content for the channel in those times when I'm waiting for the actors. But we'll see where that goes. Leon L. Johnson. Let me write that name down. Just a second. It would be nice if we do actually see the Chiss, not just Thrawn. Because it would... So, the Timothy Zahn books that have been released in the new canon, I'm enjoying them, but I feel like they're so disconnected from everything else that's happening. I know the first three tie into Rebels a bit, but they're so disconnected from anything else that it doesn't really feel like they affect anything. And Timothy Zahn's best writing is when the galaxy is at stake. So if the new series you asked that question, but I'm already answering it. So if the live action shows bring back Thrawn and do tie into what Timothy Zahn's been writing as well, I think that would be great, because it will mean that those books do actually link up with something else in the Star Wars universe, and I'm excited to see what they do. And of course, seeing more Chiss in person is going to be great. Nice to see a live action Aralani. So I've almost finished the first Thrawn Ascendancy book. I think there's 2 chapters left, and I've got the second book, which obviously I haven't started yet, so I can't comment on it. And I only need to do that before the third book gets released in November. Yeah, he was. The story goes, Dave Filoni invited Timothy Zahn to have a tour of the animation studio, because he knew that Dave Filoni knew that Zahn was a fan of Clone Wars and then later Rebels, and so they sat him down and said, "We're going to show you a little bit of what we're going to do next." And he showed them one of Thrawn's. I think it's the scene where Thrawn is first introduced. And then they started saying, "This is what we're going to do with Thrawn," and Timothy Zahn kind of gave some comments. It's Timothy Zahn's best books. Like even before Disney, it's the Thrawn trilogy and the Hand of Thrawn duology, where the whole galaxy is at stake in both series of books. He's done some other smaller scale stories, which they've been good, but I feel like his best writing is when it's a big epic story and not quite such a small scale thing. Not to say I didn't enjoy the other books, I did, but I enjoyed the main ones more. A void duel. Okay, you have to explain what a void duel is before I'll agree to anything. What was it like reading about Thrawn the first time when the trilogy was released? So I had the audiobook read by Anthony Daniels for Heir to the Empire. And Spaceship Battle, of course. So yeah, if I play, you're going to win because you're much more experienced with the game than I am. So anyway, audiobook. I listened to that so many times, and so I just really enjoyed the story and imagining how it would look. And so when working on this series, I'm trying to bring what I remember picturing in my head to life on the screen. And of course the audiobooks are abridged, so there's a lot of scenes that didn't make it into the story. So then I get to play around with it a little bit more and imagine something new this time. And I can't remember if this particular scene was in. I think it was a cut down version of it anyway, and it was in Thrawn's meditation chamber. But I moved it to the hangar for reasons you'll see when you watch the finished chapter. Which I'm excited to. Once I've done the sound editing, I'm excited to be able to share it finally. Wow, been here almost an hour. I've finished the thumbnail. So I may end the stream shortly because I don't really know what else I can show off. But consider this image a little sneak preview of chapter 15. And you won't have too much longer to wait to see it. And then I can get to work on the really exciting chapter 16, the halfway point of the story, which is it's a huge milestone for the series. And one I never really imagined I'd get to, or spent too much time thinking about, because it was always such a distant thing, and then suddenly it's here, which is great. I'm excited for it, and it's an excellent chapter as well. It's got some of my favourite Thrawn dialogue in, so I can't wait to get to work on that. So yeah, I think is the chat frozen because no one said anything for a little while. When do I think the whole of Heir to the Empire? Hoppy and Floopy, you've both said more or less covered the same thing. I don't know how long it will take me to finish the book. Hopefully I'll get to the end. So when it gets halfway point, I hope I'm going to be closer to the end than I am the beginning, so it doesn't take me quite so long. I've got some ideas on how to speed things up a little bit, but putting those into practice may be tricky. But we'll see when I get to those, because the next few chapters I can't put those ideas into effect, but some later on I can. And I actually have all of the dialogue needed to finish chapter 25, which is a long way ahead. I mean, I could animate it now and then just hold on to it. But then iClone may go to do some updates, so whatever I animate now, I then want to just redo it anyway, and make use of whatever graphical enhancements they add to the software when between now and then. Does it get easier making each chapter as it goes along? In some ways, because it's teaching me a lot about. There've been some chapters taught me a lot more about the software than I knew before, which does help, and the software does get updates that do make things easier. Recently they had this one where it makes the lip sync, so the mouth movements look. It can detect the words a lot better than it was able to before, so I only have to do a bare amount of lip sync correction on it, because before I would just scrap the entire thing and then do all the lip movement manually, which is very time consuming. And now I can, instead of taking hours, I can do it in minutes. So that's a huge improvement. I still need to do the disco lobot. Yeah. Alright, well, I'll stay here for another 5 minutes and then end the stream at the hour mark, because I think that's a good time for it. Hoppy, I think you need to be the one that explains Disco Lobot, since it was your idea. But it does go back to when I was creating the Lobot character model for which chapter was it? 14? I have actually had 27 likes on this stream already. Maybe I should set a crowdfunding campaign for Dancing Lobot. So, in chapter 14, Lobot appears briefly. He doesn't say anything, which is true to character, I guess, when they're reprogramming 3PO. And so I designed Lobot in the iClones character creator and streamed that. There's a dog outside barking. And Hoppy came along with the idea that he should be in his underwear dancing to disco music during that stream. And keeps asking me to render it. That is true. So, the more clothing options I put on the characters, the more demanding it is on the computer's memory, even if they're not visible. So I remove all their underwear because it slows things down for no reason. So that's something to think about when you're watching the next chapter. None of the characters are wearing underwear. I'm glad you're entertained by it. It's a smart technical move though, because what's the point of making these complex character models even more demanding on the system than they need to be? And there's no reason for it, because you're not going to see their underwear. So yeah, we're going to leave that one there. So hopefully we see more about the new Lego Star Wars game on Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to do a surprise stream for that or not. It will be a surprise. Currently leaning towards no, because as fun as it was last time, there was a lot of games that just weren't that interesting. What if I changed the ending of the last command? So instead of Rook stabbing him with a knife, it's it's the Dancing Lobot video and me explaining that none of the characters are in their underwear, and Thrawn just dies from embarrassment. And he'll say it was not artistically done as his last words. Maybe I'll do it as a blooper scene, and then do the real scene as well. Alright, so I've been streaming for an hour. It's 1 AM, and I am a bit tired, and I have finished the thumbnail. So this image is now ready for chapter 15 to be finished. So you'll see it when I upload it. So I think it's time to end the stream and for me to head off to bed. I hope you all have a great week. See you all next Monday. Hopefully we can be excitedly discussing the Lego Star Wars game. I am not going to animate that. I don't know if the software could handle that kind of scene. And we'll just leave that as it is. So yeah, may the throne be with you all. I lose my voice now. I need to get a drink of water before bed, I think. So anyway, take care and see you all next week.